You could have the most amount of money in the world, but you can never speed up time,
Mm.
period. You cannot pay to speed up time. And so you have to play the long game when it comes to business. You have to have that long-term trust when it comes to your business. Welcome to the Spinoso Podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Alex Spinoso. My experience is in scaling all medical businesses to 7, 8, and even 9 figures. And I'm sharing my journey with you. It's not a podcast telling you should do this. I'm just telling you how I did this. And I want to help you take ownership of your life. And fuck it, let's just get into it. And I've loved to connect with you guys. Look, if you're a medical entrepreneur, we have created a bunch of free courses on my website. We also have created a bunch of free courses in our Circle app for charismatics. We've created a mastermind. Join charismatics.com to get you around other like-minded med spa individuals, and super excited to go through that with you guys.
Cool. So today we're going to be talking about trust because no matter what we're talking about, leadership, personal development, business, just life in general, without trust, nothing works. And so I think a lot of people can focus a lot on getting people to trust them when really what the conversation needs to be and the focus should be on being trustworthy.
100%. If people don't trust you, then they're not going to buy from you at all. They're not going to buy from you. They're not going to work with you. They're not going to follow you. They're not going to listen to you. You need to focus on trust. It's the most important, really, thing that you have. And growing up, my dad was always like, you have to be a man of your word, no matter what that is. And I've always done that. Brent and I, when we started our business, we never had a contract or anything like that. It was strictly a handshake. And from that handshake, it was always, hey, this is what we're trying to do together, and this is what we're looking to do together. And since then, it's always been exactly the same. We really only created contracts last year. Now, I don't recommend that at all, but it was that trust. It was how we both kind of grew up, and as a result of that, it's always been that way.
Yeah. And, it really isn't about marketing tricks or manipulation. It's like trust is the key to everything. And, that comes down to two things. But I like to say, and I want to start with this, is when it comes to can you trust others versus am I trustworthy? I like to have a moment of self reflection on a consistent basis. If everyone was as honest as I am, would we be in a better place? Would that be relationship wise, in my personal relationship with my partner? If he is as honest as I am, would we be in a good place? And with business, if everyone in our organization was as honest as I am, would the organization be in a better place? It's always a good place to start because, it starts with that mirror, like what's happening in me, and then that is gonna be what happens around us. It's about being a good person and having the best interest of others at heart.
Right. Most people are focusing on, look, I want to get this person to trust me, or I want to manipulate them into trusting me instead of just being fucking trustworthy.
Yeah.
Like, if you're just a trustworthy person and you tell it like it is, and you say something, you're going to do it, and you execute on what you tell others you're going to do, and everything like that, well, then guess what? You are going to be a person that is trustworthy. You're gonna be a person that other people trust, they listen to, and they learn from. And it's not about, like, being manipulative or anything like that. It's just straight up being trustworthy. It's just saying exactly what you mean and what you're going to do and then doing it. It's as simple as that, really.
Yeah. The other thing too, I think that we have to talk about in this podcast, because it is definitely important when it comes to trust, is being competent. Because you no matter how nice you are or trustworthy you are, if you are also not competent in what you're doing, no one's gonna trust you. So it's like it's twofold because you have to be trustworthy, but then you also need to be competent at what you're doing because if you know if you are that person that somebody can go to when they need something and you're gonna get it done, they can trust, like, I can hand this off and this person's gonna get it done for me, and they're gonna do it well. Um, but if you're trustworthy in the sense of, okay, you're honest, you speak your truth, but you suck at what you're doing, you're going to lack in the trust factor, but not because of a character thing, but because of a competence thing. So, if you really want to be trustworthy all the way around, you have to do both. You have to be the best you can be in your job. And if you can't be stellar in what you're doing, then maybe you're in the wrong position.
Yeah.
Be in a position where you can, gain and build trust that you're gonna be able to do your job well.
Yeah. Either that or you just fucking suck at your job, and you just need to get better. Because
True.
there's those people just like, "Oh, I'm in the wrong job." People listen to that, be like, "Oh, I'm just in the wrong job. I'm just in the wrong position." No, it's like, "No, you're just lazy and like, there's no professional couch surfers. At least I don't know. If there is, I need to definitely be one."
Yeah,
So, yeah, 100%. So,
good point.
and you're right. It comes down to being a good person. It comes down to being competent and knowing what the hell you're doing. And, that's just the important part. If you're doing that every single day, you don't have to worry about whether or not you're trustworthy. It's something I don't think about because you just act like that every single day. It's not something I have to think in my head, well, am I being trustworthy today? I'm just really living that and being trustworthy. I
Yeah.
I don't know how else to freaking say it.
Well, I feel that because as I've become just a trustworthy person, there's no attention on it. Because if you are that, whatever that label is, you don't have to think about it. Like I'm a woman, so I'm not running around being like, let me try to be female.
Mm,
Like I'm just a female.
yep,
Like I don't have to think about it.
yeah,
And I think it's when, somebody's like, I'm trustworthy or I'm humble or I'm kind and you have attention on that. And then the people that proclaim that the loudest, you have to wonder sometimes like, are you really? Because if you are, you don't have to convince other people that you are. You just are.
mhm,
Uh, and then I think the other piece that comes to that is the more you are, the less of a lens you have that other people are not. Because there's no, like, your filter is everything out in the world is a reflection of what you are. So if you are running around like thinking everybody's lying to you, it's probably not everybody else in the world that's lying. It's probably you that needs to take a look at where you're not being honest or trustworthy.
mhm,
So I feel like the more you become trustworthy, the more you see that in the world around you, and the more you attract people who are trustworthy because it's a reflection of you. We're attracting what we are in the world, like the very common adage about you are the 5 closest people to you. You are going to attract all of the people that are a reflection of who you are. So if you're surrounded by people who aren't trustworthy, it's a good idea to take a look in the mirror and go, what am I doing?
mhm.
Because it's highly likely you're attracting that because vibrationally you're doing the same things. And so if you're constantly having things come at you that don't feel very good from the trustworthy perspective, it's like, yeah, maybe an area to take a look at. But anyway, I went off on a little rabbit
No, that's fine.
rabbit trail there. And I think I going back to like it's the perception of do I look trustworthy. That's where manipulation comes in. If you're trying to convince somebody else of your trustworthiness, you're wanting to create this perception of who you are that's not real. And that's where, it's this manipulation around, I'm going to get somebody else to think this thing about me. And a good question to ask yourself is, where do I doubt this in myself? If I have to get you to believe that I'm trustworthy, there's something in me that doubts that I'm actually trustworthy. And so it's like, what is in me that's doubting that about myself? Whatever the belief is, whether it's, humility is another thing because I hear people talk about that, like I'm humble, and it's like, well, if you're humble, you don't have to say that. People are going to feel it, and if you're trustworthy, people are going to feel that. You don't have to talk about it.
Right. There's a difference between being humble and having humility. Like having humility is knowing you can get better, and being humble essentially, according to everybody out there, is like, oh well, you can't talk about how you're doing, or you
Mhm.
can't talk about who you are. No, it's just uh, being humble and having humility and all that, just know it's just knowing that you can get better. That doesn't mean that you still can't be or say that you're the best if you are one of the best, period. So that's yeah, that's definitely you're right on that. And again, that's being trustworthy. If you're saying you're the best and you are the best, great. There's nothing that's not trustworthy about that.
Yeah. People really do trust people, though, that are both morally solid and really good at what they do, especially if what they do is, if you're talking about business and yes, life is good because you want to be good at like if you want relationship advice, go to the person that's got a great relationship, right? So that's one level. But in business, specifically talking about business, when somebody is morally solid and really good at their job, it's like everyone around them, the people above them, the people below them, they know that they're trustworthy. And, that's a person you want on your team. Has there been a time where somebody has been either competent but lacked the moral side or morally solid but not competent that you've trusted where they've had one and not the other? Like how has that played out and how did that go?
Yeah, I think if you're talking about the first one, there's all the stories that people have of they might have a killer salesperson or somebody who's just an absolute monster in, um, I don't want to say leadership, but in leading sales essentially, or just there's that one story where there's always somebody who's killing it in sales, and the business owner is afraid to get rid of them because they
Mm.
just are worried about the sales, but that person is a straight poison. Like, they're terrible for culture, they're not trustworthy, they're selling to whoever has got a pulse and causing issues on refunds and things like that, and that person always is best to get rid of. Now, on the opposite side, like you said, there might be someone who's not very good at executing and they're very trustworthy. They want to show up every day and do better, they want to get better, they want to improve, and that's the type of person you want to a degree because you train them and train them and train them and they get better, or you train them and train them and train them and they're still just not good at what they do. They're still just not efficient. Then you have to let them go. But I would rather have somebody who is trustworthy on my team, and maybe needed more training to execute versus somebody who is 100% an absolute killer and just was absolutely untrustworthy.
Yeah, I mean, we've also, like that makes me think about the times in, Genesis even, where we've had people on the team that were competent, but, like, lacked the moral character and the cancer that that causes within the organization and, like, just how that really affects the entire team is it's wild. So you got I mean, I feel that because like, you gotta get rid of those people, even if they're doing great at one part of their job. It's hard to teach the moral compass, like, you either have it or, like, you really don't, and not that you can't not have it and work toward it, but that's a journey, like, that's not something that you can have them take, like, a weekend course and that's it.
Yeah.
They're morally solid, like, it doesn't work like that. Where you could have somebody, if they needed to get better at their job, enroll them in, like, a weekend course, and you could see a lot of improvement over a couple days. I don't you can It's not the same when you're trying to teach, like, trustworthiness or, like, a moral compass. Like, I
Yep.
feel like people just naturally have it or don't.
Yeah. No, you're absolutely right. I mean, I think it's maybe born from what they grew up with. I mean, what they had to learn, if they had to learn to be trustworthy or not to get through life, to get food, or how their parents taught them, etc. I think there's a whole bunch of extra layers of just shit there that a lot of people just can't unpack. And you're right. I mean, I think a lot of people, they don't change for the most part. I think there's the small amount of people who can change 100%, be a different person or whatever. But for the most part, I would say that most people don't change when it comes to that.
Yeah. Yeah, if they do, it's a very long journey.
Right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Exactly.
It's like,
Yeah,
how
100%.
much time do we got?
Yeah, exactly. It is a
In
long,
business, you don't
long
have
run.
that much time.
Exactly. Yeah,
Yeah.
but, if you want long-term trust, I guess getting into our second point really is if you want long-term trust with your clients, with your customers, um, you have to play the long-term game. Well, if we're talking about long-term and playing the long game, then that comes into our second point, which is if you want long-term trust from your clients, from your customers, you have to play the long game. A lot of businesses will think transactionally. How do I close this sale right now? How do I get this done right now? Versus in the future, like, how can I make sure I help this person? How can I make sure I get this person to their end result? So that way, I can keep them forever, or they can refer 10 of their friends to me forever. And it's a very different thing where one is thinking about right now, right now, right now. And that's how society is. We want it right now. We want the wins right now. We want the money right now. We want everything, even pizza right now. But, long term trust is built over time. That's the number one thing that one of my mentors said you can never speed up with any amount of money. You could have the most amount of money in the world, but you can never speed up time,
Mm,
period. You cannot pay to speed up time. And so you have to play the long game when it comes to business. You have to have that long-term trust when it comes to your business. Or you have to make that long-term commitment to trust, and people will trust in you when it comes to your business. And that makes a huge difference.
mhm. Yeah, it means being transparent, and
Absolutely.
that is, e um the balance of, let's say you have a salesperson and they're thinking about getting that sale, but it's like, what if you have a better, or what if there's a better product that you don't offer? Or what if there's a better solution that you do offer, but it's not as much money or something like that? It's like seeing what's going to be best for the client in the end, because that's what we're there to do. I mean, our mission is about creating the best outcomes.
Mhm.
In that, the money will come. You can't come from scarcity. And that, from like a sale, just from the conversation on the sales part and thinking more relationship driven versus transactional, it's really not about like that immediate income, because the long-term value of the client, when you give them what it is that gets them their best outcomes, they're going to be with you longer, they're going to spend more money.
Mhm.
So it's like a win-win. You've done right by them, and they're going to stay with you because they know that you're going to tell them transparently what is the best solution for them. And it's not just about, the dollar signs when they walk in the door. Um, and what happens if they're not going to get the best results from what you offer? What do you do? Telling them what is going to get them the best results, that creates a level of trust. And maybe they don't buy from you right there, but they're going to come back and maybe buy something else. Or they're going to tell their friends, hey, this didn't work for me. It wasn't a good fit for me, but you can trust that they're going to tell you the right thing. I actually had a girlfriend recently. I was asking where I should go to the dentist because I'm, like kind of newer to the area. So it's like, I don't even know what dentist I should go to. And she said that the office isn't very nice. It's super small. They have like one person that works there and then the owner. She's like, and they're kind of expensive. So I'm thinking like none of this sounds great.
Mhm.
But she
Right.
said she has taken her kids there since they were young. there's like 20 years. She's like, and I've always trusted them. They've always told me what I needed and they've never tried to sell me something that like we didn't need. And I was like, all right, I'll go there. I'll pay for that. And
Yeah.
it was like this hole in a wall,
Mhm.
like rundown kind of office, and it had like Looney Tunes pictures all over. I mean, it was just very random,
Yeah.
very weird. And I was just like, all right.
You went to the
But
children's dentist?
yes, that is definitely what it sounds like. But it was a regular dentist. And I paid more money than I've probably ever paid to go to the dentist, which
Mhm.
I maybe should have asked, like, what do you mean by the
Y
fact they charge more?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
But I went there.
That's why they don't need to upsell anybody on anything, they just have high prices.
Yeah, I went there and I was like, "All right, cool." Like, I know they're not gonna be like, "Hey, you need this thing," if you really don't need it. So, I trusted that. And so it's just about being real. Obviously, they had built her trust over many, many years, and she was willing to tell me, "Hey, you can trust these people."
Yep.
So, it that goes back to people sending other people to you when you're trustworthy.
Yeah.
But I wanna talk for a second about the point of we're talking from the client perspective, but
Mhm.
what about the team, our teams? And that's the second part of the Genesis mission is to be the best employer. And that also comes from building relationship over time with your teams. So if you're listening to this and you've got teams and you want to build trust over time, what do you feel like was the driver in your ability to build trust within your teams to go from one location to 3 locations to now 80? Because that says a lot.
Yeah, it's you have to be, like, transparent. I mean, transparency is key when it comes to that, and that doesn't mean bearing your soul or getting into your childhood trauma, like some of these fucking whack jobs are now. It means like telling your team how it is, telling your team where you are as a team, where you're going, and making sure that they understand where you're trying to go, where you're trying to take your business, where you're trying to take them as your team. And that's called strategic transparency. Like again, you're not lying to them, you're not picking and choosing what to tell them, but you are essentially making sure that they understand, hey, this is the direction we're going in. Get everybody on the bus, get the right people on the bus, and then drive the bus where you need to go. So that's really important is making sure you are getting trustworthy people on the bus at the beginning and then focusing on where to go rather than you trying to change people that have not been so trustworthy in the past.
So that I wanna dig a little bit deeper on what you're saying here with not bearing your soul or sharing your childhood traumas. How do you know what is a good thing to share? Where do you draw that line? And is it different for different types of businesses? Like, so thinking of the listener here, like, how do they know how deep do they go with that relationship side, the transparency side with who they are,
Mhm.
and then what they can share with their teams and being more strategic? Like, I kind of want to dig into that a little bit more with I think it's a great term, strategic transparency, because you're still being transparent. It's about certain things. So how do you know where that line is?
I think that line isn't, "Hey, we don't know if we're gonna pay our rent this month," or that you're not being strategically, transparent if you're telling your staff or your employees that. Maybe your business partner, yeah, you and your business partner should definitely know, what's going on in the clinics or what's going on in your locations and, whether or not you can pay rent or payroll or the bills coming up and stuff like that, but you shouldn't be telling your staff that. You need to still have confidence with your staff that, "Hey, what you're doing is right." You're going in the right direction, and even if you don't 100% know, because a lot of times you don't 100% know, it's kinda like being a parent is like running a business. You're just figuring it out, and there's a whole bunch of books about it, but you don't really know how to do it until you're in it and you're actually doing it, and that's the most important part is being in it and doing it. But I think the transparency thing is really being honest about your mistakes, being honest about you know, where you messed up, being honest about where people are doing great, and making sure that the team sees that and the team knows that you as a leader, sometimes you have struggles or you're messing up, but at the same time, that's okay. We're all going in the same direction. Now, it can't be that you're always fucking up as the business owner or the director and you're just saying people, yeah, I'm fucking up all the time. It's okay. Like, and then you're just coming down on your employees for them messing up. That's not that you can't do that. It's not rules for thee, but not for me. You have to be able to show up and be transparent and say, "Hey, I messed this up. This is how we're doing this from now on, or we're improving this system." So you have to be honest about your struggles and honest about the mistakes, but then make an effort to show that you're fixing them, improving them, etc. You're
Mm.
not telling people, "Yeah, I got $7 in my bank account right now. I don't know if we'll survive because they're gonna freak out. They're gonna go somewhere else." It's things like that.
Mm. Yeah, you bring up a point that, if you're a leader and you're constantly messing up, I mean, well, I would question if you're a good leader.
Right.
But but, recognizing there are struggles, however, if you're constantly I mean, we've experienced this, and so there are clinic directors that run around like, "Oh my god, I messed this up. Oh my god, I messed this up. Oh my god, I messed this up," and it doesn't create a sense of stability within your team, and people want stability. They wanna be part of something more significant than themselves, but there is a real need, especially with teams are predominantly women. Women want stability. That's just a natural thing within us.
Mhm.
It's like that there's something about that that creates peace and also free attention for them to focus on serving the client. So they have to know that there's stability within the environment. And if the leader is not stable, then the whole business is going to feel it.
Mhm.
It's like an earthquake. It's not gonna be good.
Right.
So that's interesting. So if you're a leader and you constantly are messing up, you gotta take some leadership training, seek some help, get some support from those above you, or if you are a leader and you could I think some of it's mindset. You feel like any little thing that goes wrong, you're like, "Oh my god, I messed up. This is the worst thing in the world." It's also recognizing, like, is it really, like, or is that just, your, you know, dog ate your homework kind of thing, and it's not that big of a deal. Like, calm down, don't freak out about it. So I think recognizing what are real big mess ups and then what's just a part of business and life. Like things don't always go our way. But recognizing if something's truly a mess up or not, and then how and when you share that with somebody else. Um, but that's interesting. So if you are messing up as a leader, take some leadership training. um, and then also it's like don't share those personal details with everyone. I think you have to know. Like you said, you and your business partner have those conversations because that's the level you're on. You guys have to have that. But there are certain things that other people you wouldn't just go tell your neighbor if you had something going on in your marriage. I mean, ideally, you're not running around
Right.
telling your neighbor.
Right.
So, you're not gonna run around in your business and tell people like, "Oh, my wife and I are fighting," or, "My partner and I are going through all this BS. Like, there's just not the time and place. It's like recognizing that separation of like, what's the right time and place and what are the relationships that um, deserve that level of certain levels of transparency. So you just have to be willing to admit your mistakes when you make them, which is something that I have over the last 4 years that I've been a part of Genesis, like, seeing you do over and over again is over and over again, not in the sense of you're always mucking up,
Mm,
but when it happens or when something is like, "Hey, I thought this was gonna be the case and I was wrong," it's not like a big mistake, but it's like, "Hey, I thought this, I was wrong, and here's what we're doing about it." Or, "This didn't work out the way that we had planned, and here's how we're pivoting." Those are that's transparency. And that gives you a sense like being in the company, it takes time to build that level of trust with the leaders that you do have. It's like, and the more I've seen that trust build that I have with you guys, the more committed I am to the company. Because it's like, okay, I can trust where we're going. I believe in where we're going. I believe in this process. I believe in you guys. I've seen you treat people the right way. Like, I know you're always gonna do the right thing, or you're gonna do your very best to do the right thing
mm,
in any situation. So, like, there's more commitment when you're a leader that has true trust with their team.
absolutely. 100%.
Is there an example for you that you talk about how you grew up, but do you have an example of a leader in your own life that their transparency helped you build trust with them?
Hmm. I think anybody who's gonna be a mentor to anyone is gonna be transparent with them. They're gonna tell them how it is. They're gonna tell them the reality of life, the reality of business, and, I mean, I've just really listen to my business mentors. There isn't a single person, I would say, specifically, but it's just listening to business mentors and listening to, if you listen to anybody who's like really, really successful, they always have this air of transparency of, hey, these are the bad things that happen. These are the good things that happen from that. And there's always this back and forth. It's never just set in stone like, oh, yeah, I was always I did this and I invented this and I created this and everything was great and hunky dory and it was awesome and there was no downsides, there was no issues, there was no problems. Um, yeah, with mentors, they're the people who are real, they'll always have some transparency about them.
Mhm.
Always.
Well, it's good to help people know that they're normal too.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
like, if you went through this process and everything was perfect, I'm gonna really question if I can do it when stuff starts going wrong. If I'm like, "What they had it," they had this smooth sailing, easy journey. What am I doing that it's like this?
Mhm.
Like, you have to know that, like, the people around you that have created the success that you want have also gone through those things. Um, so I think that's a super important part in inspiring other people too.
Yeah, absolutely.
And you're inspiring people to this goes back to um what I was saying at the beginning is if you look at yourself and go, if everyone was as honest as I am, would the company be in a better place? It's like you're modeling behavior that you want your teams to have and your other leaders within your organization to have. So, and then people can feel if you're pretending, if you're not being open about what's really happening to the right degree for the community you're talking to, people can feel that it's fake.
Mhm.
I mean, I'm sure that you've experienced people around you that you're like, there's like a hidden agenda or there's
Right.
something going on there that doesn't feel genuine.
Yep.
It's like, get me away from those people.
100%. 100%.
Okay, so leading into point 4 of our, 5 keys to trust here is really something that you hear successful people talk about is the more successful you get, the slower it is that you need to be to trust.
Mhm.
And I really want to understand your perspective on this because you've experienced um that tipping point, it feels like from an outsider looking in where you've put in the work. You've put in the work for a long time, and you've sacrificed a shit ton that most people will never even understand what it meant for you and your family and the people around you and Brent as well. But it's like, how have you seen this change in your life where like the more successful you've gotten, you've had to be slower to trust people around you?
Yeah, look, as you there's a phrase, and I don't know where I heard it from, but I repeat it to a lot of my successful business colleagues all the time now, in that when you're just starting out or you're working and you're getting through it and you're grinding every fucking day and you don't know when the end is going to come or if you're going to win or whether you're going to lose, at that point, there could be once in a lifetime opportunities that come across your desk that are truly that. They're like once in a lifetime. But as you start to get more and more and more successful, those once in a lifetime opportunities, they start to come once a week. And you have to be very discerning about every opportunity that comes across your desk. Because I used to say yes, yes, yes to, like, everything that came across my desk, and I still do to a large degree say I can't it's difficult for me to say no to a lot of things. And the problem with that is, there will be a lot of people who try and take advantage of you or take your time. And that's your one, finite resource that you have is your time and focusing on your business and focusing on where you're going. And there'll be a lot of people who want that. There'll be a lot of people who say, hey, I'd like to talk to you about this or that, or check this out or check that out. And it's really, um, they see you as a ticket, like they're you're their donkey and it'll be good. They'll ride you until the the sunset, and they'll use you for anything, or they'll use your platform to scam other people. It's not about being paranoid. It's about really being smart as you get to that point, because there'll be more and more and more people like that. There'll be more and more people who are focused on the fact that you have money or influence or connections, and they don't it's not that they don't understand it, because they know very well who you are and what you have available to them, but they want to utilize that for their own good. And I get it. Everybody works for themselves or everybody's out for themselves a little bit. You have to be in order to find the best job or, take care of your family, etc. You have to be. But at the same time, there's going to be a lot of people who are focused on your using your money, your influence, your connections to take advantage of you. And you have to be really discerning at that point.
At higher levels of success, it also affects so many more people than just you. It's like trusting the wrong person hurts the whole organization or hurts your family. It's like because there's so much riding on what you've built, it's like letting the wrong person in can really do damage to a lot of people. And again, like the whole team we've experienced where we've had a couple bad apples that had to be addressed, and it's like watching how to mend the damage that was done because there was somebody that wasn't trustworthy in the circle. It's like that is taken time and, fixing what somebody, I guess, the negative intentions that somebody else had because of trusting the wrong person. It's a lot of time and energy, and it feels very, um, like I guess to me, if I were to describe it, it can feel very like vulnerable or think about like when somebody steals from you or something. It feels very it's just damaging. Like it hurts. Like it
Mhm.
hurts the soul in a different way, especially when you really believed in somebody and what they were saying. And then, if that doesn't turn out right. So going back to your intuition. And that's something that you and Brent often talk about together, that if one of you is like, I don't feel right about this, you guys don't do it.
Mhm.
And I think that's an amazing alignment that the 2 of you have, and it's great to have. That's a great agreement to have in a partnership. Like, if one of the 2 of you feels like something is off, then you just trust that because something's probably off.
Mhm.
So having your intuition be a driver when you get to higher levels of success and really feeling into, what is, and like you said, people are looking out for themselves and that's okay to some degree. But is it creating a win-win? Is there mutual benefit to the relationship or, why this person is asking for these things from you? Um, do you feel like there's been that in your life where you could say there's been one person or a handful of people that you're like, "I wish that I trusted them and I really poured into that person and then I wish I wouldn't have?" Or do you
Oh,
feel
yeah,
like
there's a ton. I mean, the I wish I wouldn't have is no, there's not there because then that's saying that you wish you weren't the person that you actually are.
Mm,
So that doesn't make sense at all. You could always say, "Oh, well, that person is not a trustworthy person or they're a terrible person or whatever." But saying I wish I wouldn't have just means that you wish you were not the person you are today, or you wish you were harder, or you wish you, I don't know, hated people more, or you weren't as good of a person as you were. No, I think I don't think anybody should think that. I think there's always the hindsight 2020. I wish I would have done things differently, or things like that, which is fine. Um, but never wish ill will on anybody, or like I wish I wouldn't have done that to a with a person or put my trust in somebody because I mean that's the one person who fucked you over, there's 20, 30 other people that didn't, that
mm.
haven't. So if you just never trusted anybody, then you'd always have issues. That's the biggest part of that.
So maybe a better question is like, what did you learn in those situations?
Oh, that life isn't fair. Welcome to reality.
Mm.
I mean, you're just gonna trust some people and you're gonna pour yourself into some people and they may let you down in the end but I mean, that's part of life. That's the human condition. And the shitty parts as well as the good parts is part of living, and that's just how it is, really. Mhm.
Yeah. Hmm. Well, it brings me to our number 5 point really, which is trust requires risk. But should be reasonable risk, but there is a risk associated with trust. And you can't close yourself off to people. You just have to know that there's this reasonable risk when you have somebody new come in, and it takes time to figure out if their moral compass and moral code is aligned with, you know, where you are. And what do you feel like when it comes to taking reasonable risk with trusting people? How do you manage that?
Well, I mean, you can't go through life thinking that everybody's going to screw you over because a few people have in your past, like we talked about. And if you do that, you're gonna end up alone, you're gonna end up bitter, you're gonna end up hating everyone. And on the opposite of that, you can't blindly trust every single person that walks into your life. And I think the only really way to figure that out is through experience, is through actually doing it, is through getting out there and trusting people and not trusting people and seeing how it goes in the end. Because if you just sit there and you don't do anything about it, if you have this analysis paralysis, then you're never going to get anywhere. So you should trust people. You should be risky about it. You should be discerning as much as you possibly can to a degree about your risk and what it means to be, to trust this person versus not trust this person. Because in the end, that's risk is what's going to get you results. Period. You cannot get results and you cannot get incredible results, build incredible businesses, have incredible teams without massive amounts of risk. You have to. And if you don't, um, if you don't go out there, if you don't take that risk, if you don't try, then you're never gonna. really get anywhere, and you're never really gonna build a business if that's what you wanna do. You're never gonna be a great leader if that's who you wanna be. You have to go out there, you have to take risks, and in the end, you just have to realize that sometimes things or people will let you down, but on the opposite, sometimes you let a lot of people down too.
Mm.
That's just part of it. That's part of life.
Mm. That's a very compassionate perspective too to come from, is to recognize that what other people have done sometimes not it's not coming from a deliberate, I wanna, as you would say, "Fuck this person's day up."
Yeah,
They don't wake
yeah,
up saying that,
exactly.
but, like, and just like we don't wake up saying that, but we've hurt people or broken trust to some degree at times, and, um, it's assessing the situation. Is this, a one-off accident, incident, you know, lapse in judgment kind of situation, or was this like a deliberate effort to F up my day? Because it is very different, and recognizing that we have done that to other people too. That's a very integrous viewpoint. Just like me, this person is learning about life, and I've done it, they've done it, there's grace, there's kindness, there's compassion that can get extended. What's this person going through? Where's their mind at? Is this truly their heart? Or, is there really a good person there that just had a moment?
Yeah.
Because, I'm a good person and I've had some moments.
Yeah, and that doesn't mean that in that aspect of it or in that moment you wanna burn them to the ground and set them on fire, like,
Yeah.
there are some way times that you wanna do that, and you're gonna be angry, and you're gonna be upset, and you're gonna go through almost like the 5 stages of grief, the same type of,
Mm.
reaction and everything, but I like to think as I get older and more experienced in business, you try and calm down more, because there's just so much shit that has gone your way or that comes your way that adding more shit to it, it's just it doesn't help you in any way to get crazy, wild, or upset or overreact on if somebody breaks your trust. It just it's just a part of life again, and you move on and you improve or you get better or you go somewhere else or you do what you need to do.
Yeah. So good. What a great conversation. And, if you really want to build trust in life and business, these 5 things are really where to start.
Yeah.
You want to recap on
Yeah,
those
they're
five?
be a good person, and be good at what you do. And if you're a good person, you're good at what you do, people are gonna follow you. Think relationship-wise, don't think transactional, think long term. How can I help this person change their life? How can I improve this person's life? How can I do everything I can to be the guy or the girl that improves this person's life? Number 3, be transparent with your team, but be strategic about it. It's not, "Woe is me, every week we're gonna die, this is terrible, we can't pay rent." It is, "Hey, I messed up, I need to get better here, let's improve as a team, let's get better, this is the direction we go in." It's as you're more successful, being slower to trust and more discerning about who you let in your circle and what you let in your circle and how you react to certain things. And number 5 is trust requires risk. You have to take risks in order to be trustworthy. You have to take risks or in order for you to trust someone else. You're risking everyone that you meet essentially letting you down. You're risking that. But that's part of life. That's part of how it is, and make sure it's reasonable. You're not asking a bunch of, drug dealers on the side of the road to be trustworthy. You're being discerning about who you talk to about that, and you do those 5 things or you focus on these 5 things, you're gonna be able to build a real trust in your business, in your personal life, in anywhere that you go, you'll be trustworthy.
I love it. I love it so much. And so, thank you for listening to the Spinoza podcast. Make sure you check out dralexspinoza.com/charismatics to apply today for the information on the mastermind. Going to get a ton of value out of that. So, make sure you check it out.
Absolutely, guys. We'll see you next time.